how do you engage in such a way with your customers that they remember you, right? And that they really, are becoming a raving fan, if you will, right? To use Joe's term. But also, how do you cut through the noise, right? Because it is easy to jump on, like you said earlier, 5 Zoom calls a day, and all 5 could be competitors for your business, right? So how do you stand out? How do you make that happen?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good question, Joe. I appreciate that. So, what I found is, people are getting, a little Zoom fatigue, right? And you kind of want to disrupt the pattern a little bit. Obviously, you can't meet in person. Nobody replies to voicemails or emails anymore. That's long gone. But, some of the things that I've done and I've seen others do is just going a different route, but still using the same or similar platform. So for instance, LinkedIn, right? I'm sure everybody here is using LinkedIn more than ever, and you're probably getting overloaded with DMs in your LinkedIn that is a lot of spam looking. So number one is how do you stand out? Interact a little bit differently. Take a very highly targeted and customized approach. Don't do a copy and paste, and don't just start pitching right away. I mean, really introduce yourself and see how you can be a resource. And the only way you can do that is if you do research on that person or that company and say, hey, I noticed on your profile that this, or maybe you comment on one of their comments on LinkedIn. So it's just taking a different approach, even though you're using the same platform. A lot of people don't know this, but there's also a voice and video function within LinkedIn as well. So in a DM, instead of leaving a text DM, record a selfie video. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? These days, people would almost prefer a sort of impromptu, message. So use the video feature, use the audio feature, and you'd be surprised how much engagement you'll get just by simply doing something different than what your competitors are doing every day, which is borderline spamming, right?
Right. Yeah, very true. So I'm curious, Jeremy, to that point, are you, and this, I guess maybe it comes back to the overarching question of, really knowing your customers, but are you asking your customers outright, hey, Mr. Customer, how would you like to communicate with me? How do you want to hear from me? What's the best platform or the best, kind of strategy, if you will? Or do you have to kind of just do a lot of A/B testing, right? Try to engage with them on Clubhouse and try on LinkedIn, then try an email and just kind of see what works? I mean, how do you intuit what the right strategy is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never flat out asked. Maybe that's a good thing to try, right? I mean, that's a good point. I think that even if you did ask, maybe they wouldn't know. I mean, if somebody asked me, I'd probably say, whatever, just email me, right?
Right.
But really, if I say email me, I'm probably not going to see it for a couple of days. But like I said, I think it's just going a different route and seeing, and like I said, the testing, right? If they're replying faster through a DM, do it that way. I have people that I communicate on a regular basis through LinkedIn DMs, and then it eventually goes to email, right? When it gets to a point where it's like you're going to need a little bit more information and things like that. And by the way, you can attach documents in LinkedIn as well, as long as they're a first connection, or if you're paying for a premium account. But nonetheless, at some point it'll eventually go to email, then it'll eventually go to a Zoom meeting and so forth. So it's building that relationship. I always tell my clients, it's that multi-touch and taking different angles, right? At the end of the day, when you're prospecting, for instance, you just want to know that you're a real person representing a real company. You're not some bot or some automated, person. So I always say even voicemail and email, even though you may not get responses, it's just letting them know, hey, I'm a real person. When I leave voicemails, I don't expect a call back. I just say, hey, I'm going to send you an email. Feel free to reply if it's easier, or give me a call back. And most of the time, you'll see an increase in people just replying your email saying, hey, got your voicemail, thanks. Check back with me next week. So it's just taking different angles. And to your point, Ken, it's a lot of testing because everybody's going to be different.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's funny. I think even from us on the recruiting side, depending upon the level of position that we're recruiting for, honestly, that kind of dictates how we reach out to potential candidates, right? And I hate to say this, but to some extent, it's a generational thing as well. If we're going after somebody that honestly is the earlier stage of their career, first 10 years of the career, we're going to still email, but we're also going to send a text message, right? If I'm going after somebody who's got 30 years of experience, the odds are they probably use text, for personal reasons, but on the business side, it's just seen as being not professional enough. And so with them, I'm going to focus solely on a voicemail and an email. So it's challenging. I mean, I don't think I ever used a text to reach out to a candidate, 2 years ago, but these days I do it quite often. It is, and I'm amazed at how often I get a response. I have to explain in my text who I am, so they know it's not some random person just texting them. But I'm amazed at how that new, quote unquote new, kind of platform for connectivity is working very well, depending upon who the person is I'm reaching out to. So back to the point of knowing your audience, right? Whether it's a customer or in our case a candidate as well.
Yeah, very good point.
Well, Ken, I mean, building on that, I mean, I think this is the challenge for all marketers is how to effectively distribute content. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the content that's king. It's the content that enables this. And I agree, with the points that you need a multi-touch strategy. You need to support, multi-media, multi platforms. And what we try to do is to focus. Like if we're doing a campaign for a client, we'll focus on creating an anchor piece of content. And maybe it's a white paper. It's like we're working with a tech company that wants to sell to the healthcare industry. Well, what are the technology challenges that healthcare companies are facing? There's regulatory challenges, there's data privacy challenges, there's platform challenges, et cetera, et cetera. So we might create one anchor piece of content and then bring our creative team together to say, well, what other types of content now can we derive from that? Like we have some Instagram friendly assets that we create. We have to call them Instabits. And it's very cool. It's like, it's very visual, not text heavy. You could just swipe through like 10 slides. You get the key takeaways. You don't have to read a 50-page white paper. Someone wants to read the white paper, they can. We might create a video interview or video reels or blogs. So, from one anchor piece of content, you could potentially create, a dozen derivative assets in all different media formats. And now you can, working with your marketing team, construct a very interesting marketing campaign that could span over a month or a few weeks, and you don't have the same repetitive, boring, hey, here's the fourth time I'm sending you this white paper, please download it. We can get away from all that. And we're finding that's very effective, and it's more engaging to the new way that people want to absorb contents. And at the end of the day, the message resonates. Because the end user has seen that message in a number of different forms of content that reinforce it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for us, I know too, it's a matter of just kind of thinking differently, right? We've had a discussion several times, Elaine and Vicky and I, our marketing team, about, should we have an Instagram page? Should we look into Clubhouse, those kinds of things? And honestly, it's easier to just do what we've always done. It's easier to say, no, we've always used LinkedIn, we've always used, whatever it is, and it's been in our website, it's just fine. But to really kind of think outside the box and force yourself to say, all right, so maybe a smaller bite-sized piece of our content, our infographic or a quote here or graphic there, might make sense to put on Instagram. Whether or not it's going to bring in more business, who knows? But to your point, Art, it's definitely going to get our message out on other platforms and allow people to see it in more ways than one, and more kind of context than just the same old, same old.